Astrotometry log. It's May 16th, 2010. This log was started approximately 12:24 UTC. This is a follow-up on the May 15th, 2010 earthquake watch. And it looks like the geomagnetic activity associated with the first coronal disturbance is now arriving. And when the BZ component of the electromagnetic field popped back up, this disturbance right here, there was a 5.8 quake in Puerto Rico at approximately 18 degrees north. This fits the profile of this particular disturbance right here. And I'm suspecting that this area may be the area associated with this disturbance. The reason that I didn't call this area in my forecast is because of the plate boundaries. If you look at the plate boundaries in this region, the shape of the boundary a lot of times will indicate the shape of the affected region. And in this case, if you look at the border of the Caribbean plate and the shape of the plate, it's sort of isolated. It doesn't really extend down across the equator like this disturbance indicates. But the border on the Philippine plate does extend down across the equator. And so that was the main reason that I called this in this region rather than in this region, even though there had been activity in the Caribbean. This area right here may have fit it, but there wasn't any activity in this area. And there hasn't been any activity down here below the equator in South America. And so because of this, it's now very possible that we're going to see additional activity in this region and then possibly something down here in below the equator. This particular disturbance, this part was first, and this part came after. This part forms first, and then the part below the equator forms afterwards. And this is just a portion of the disturbance. This will be hypersymmetric with something in the next few days. And it's not necessarily the case that these are even on the same longitude. It's just common that that is the case. And so it could be that this disturbance is actually at another longitude somewhere else in the world, and that it isn't really even connected with this because of the nature of the composite relationship as the magnetic field relates to the timing of the Earth's orientation. There may be an event in this part of South America from this, and there may be additional activity along here. And it could be that this is actually still the Indonesia area in the Ring of Fire that is going to be affected by this. There's been a few shocks in that area as well, not quite as large as the ones, not quite as large as the one in the Philippines. Now, as far as the depth goes, this was a very deep quake. The one in the Philippines was also very deep. This quake was 113 kilometers deep, and so that is probably not going to be enough energy to disturb the surface water, which in the frequency differentiation, I'm reading this as a sort of island region, and that this part of the disturbance influenced the water to an extent, not a big tsunami or anything like that, but that this just was big enough to disturb the water, and that's why there's the frequency differentiation between the 171 angstrom and the 195 angstrom images. Sometimes these are perfectly lined up. Sometimes there's this contrast differentiation, and in this case there's a lot of contrast differentiation in the disturbance that I've been reading and noticed that seems to be correlated with whether or not it's in an island region that affects the water. And so that's the theory on this right now. But since this Puerto Rican event was in time with the geomagnetic activity that was expected from this disturbance, it looks like that at least this part of the event is going to manifest in the top of the Caribbean plate area. And this is probably the most likely now area for this mapping. And I guess we'll see soon whether there's going to be more activity. This could very easily be a foreshock for more activity, and it looks like from the movement in the disturbance that there is more on the way. And hopefully what we'll see is separate events, and separate events possibly in different regions as well, because if this extends down indeed from the Philippine plate, then this is a separate plate down here. This would be in South America, this particular disturbance. But because of the nature of the composite relationship in the foreshadowing of these events, the latitude could be in a separate latitude. It's just generally the case that when there is quake activity in a region, that other quake activity is in the same region if it's at the same latitude, but that's not necessarily the case. And so we'll see, I guess, in the next few days. Hopefully this will be a number of smaller events rather than one very large event. Theoretically, what associates with the magnitude of these events is the speed at which these disturbances form. So when you see a disturbance form suddenly, that indicates theoretically a larger quake, larger in magnitude. And so this is sort of very active. You can see a lot of movement in this activity that is more significant than the sort of more subtle changes that you see in other movements. There's a chunk of data missing from the 195 angstrom images of the formation of this particular disturbance. And I called this as a smaller event because it looked like it was broken up into several different events. But it does form rather quickly. And also another indicator is seemingly the depth of the hole, the coronal hole, or the contrast ratio of the disturbance. You can see that the contrast on these other two events is much higher, and this one seems to form the most quickly of the three disturbances. This one seems to form the most quickly. And I'm saying three, that you could technically count this as two because this is separate, obviously separate events here, and this is why another reason why I called this as smaller. Hopefully this was the 5.8 up here in Puerto Rico, and then we'll see probably some other activity at a lower latitude in the next day or so before these two events arrive. As I had expected, the total solar irradiance is falling, and I'm expecting that this is going to be a fairly sharp drop. And unfortunately, as the trends have gone this year with the biggest quakes, they've always arrived when there have been these significant drops. These significant sudden drops have been the Chile quake and the Haiti quake. And so I'm concerned that this is going to be potentially another huge drop. This was back on the 8th. This is lagging about by a week. And so we may already be down lower than right here right now. I don't have this data. This is the latest data from the University of Colorado. So it could be that this will potentiate the effect of these disturbances. And so I will be watching, and I'll keep you up to date on my thinking. I'm not sure, again, this is not really suitable for emergency management, but this is what's indicated by the theory. Thanks for watching.